Welcome to the Teens Talk podcast, created by the Student Virtual Board of Youth Celebrate Diversity. YCD supports teachers and students organizing locally, educating themselves and their peers, and taking action for inclusion and social justice. For more information, please visit ycdiversity.org. Hello and welcome to a very special episode of Teens Talk, where we will be celebrating diversity in the arts. Today, I'm excited to be joined by 4 incredibly talented and diverse performers and creators, Maisha, Kylie, Juri, and her son Jayden.
Well, thank you. Hi, thank you very much. My name is Maisha Azadi. I am an actor, writer, director. I work in various genres, so from stage to screen. Most recently, I just wrote and produced and directed my stage play Nina and Troy Boy. But before that, the stage play was also a film that we just had distributed on television on Aspire TV, Quelle TV. And I'm very, very passionate, like our other guests, of social activism in the arts, and I hope to get a chance to talk to you more about that later today.
Nice. I'll jump in next since I was introduced second anyways. I guess we'll go in order of operations. Hello, everybody. My name is Kylie White Turner. I'm Afro-Indigenous. I'm Nipmuc, reigning from Mashpee. Grew up with the Wampanoag, so hey to Indian country. I multi-hyphenate, much like everyone else on the call. I'm an actor, writer, director, producer, and comedian. I'm doing stand-up tonight. So if you're in New York, you should come through. I'm headlining. So I'm super excited about that. I just came off tour with the Obie winning play, The Nosebleed, amongst the Lucille Lortel nominated cast. So that was really awesome. Did the world premiere of My Story is Gluskabe, which is a Native American story in Maine about the Penobscot people and the, dawning of time in Maine. So that was really dope to have more Native voices out there. And right now I'm about to do a play in Boston opening this summer called Hoops. So that's why I'm rocking my hoops, you know what I mean, for the culture. And I wrote a musical called Sheen the Musical, which is started off as a parody of Grease, but now has become its own thing, where it's Black people who have integrated Rydell High, because we need some Black faces up on that screen.
My name is Juri Love. I'm here with my son, Jayden. We are here to talk about our variety of different activities. I'm an actress and film TV producer, musician, pianist, and then I am journalist for the Sun Chronicle and the Fox Reporter, and a single mom too.
I am Jaden Onwuakor. I am 13 years old. I am an actor and local and community volunteer. I am also a 2-time Emmy nominee for Ness and Clubhouse.
Ooh, it is so amazing to have such a talented group here today. So, going to each and every one of you, when did your spark of pursuing a career as a performer in the arts first ignite?
I'll jump in since we're going kind of in clockwise order here. Well, for me, it's hard. I don't even remember a time without the arts in my life. I grew up, my mom's a visual artist, so I grew up instead of a PK, as an AK, an artist kid. So being in, a home full of music and, acrylic paints, and just being able to, be pushed to think outside the box in a number of different ways. So visual arts and poetry. My mom was poet laureate with Gil Scott Heron. I'm aging myself and others, but that was part of my upbringing. But my grandparents also being in their household. My grandmother was a director, writer. She worked with Harry Belafonte for many years. And when she moved out of New York City, she started her first kind of teen theater troupe. So one of my first and earliest experiences was just kind of going there for the summers and being able to be immersed with these dope older teens I could be, at a part of their plays or be backstage with. And I think that really started the spark for me, oh, this is all I want to do.
I think for me it was similar. I grew up in a very artsy family as well. My mom had a dance troupe called the Damali Turner Dancers that she ran. My dad was a visual artist. Paul Goodnight is my uncle, who was an amazing visual artist. I think he actually was one of the first to have his artwork at the Olympics, like Black artist. So having it like all around me, and then just always, like, even when I was younger, I was like that little kid that was always like performing for their parents and like, look at me, watch me, and going to neighbors. Like literally I was like a little like manager for like a preteen. Like I was making my cousins and sisters sing and dance, and I'd be like, let's go to the neighbors and bring a can. Like it was like showtime on the A train in New York, but like in rural areas. Like we would have to go house to house. So instead of lemonade stands, that's what I was doing. So always had like the performance bug.
So my mother was a is still 71 years old rock musician, and I grew up in a rock cafe that she had in 70s music, and she forced me to be in her rock band when I was 4. So I started piano at 3. And my grandma plays shamisen, which is traditional guitar in Japan. So I was kind of raised in a musical family.
I got into acting. My mom introduced it to me at a young age, and I've genuinely liked it since then. So I've kept on going, and it's honestly a great experience.
Yeah, that's so great. So many of you are from creative backgrounds. You all have inspired me also to talk about myself a little bit as someone who does a lot of filmmaking as well as producing. I jump in and perform when I can. You know, that for me, I actually came from a family that I wouldn't consider directly like artistic, or they made the leap, but my mom always wanted to do like fashion and had an eye for things. My dad was like kind of the opposite, more of a kind of logical, scientific guy. But I always just like love the energy and the arts. And I guess for me, I found a mentor in like a public access station, really discovered the joy of like creating stuff with my peers and other people, and how it could build so many bridges and create something beautiful. So kind of going into this idea of family and community, how has your family or community really played a significant role in shaping your artistic journey?
My family's played like my father was probably one of the biggest reasons why I even ended up in New York, because my father, while he was a visual artist, he kind of steered more away from that, and like he used to work for like HUD, and he's more like into veteran stuff and things like that, but he's a very educated man. And so for him, because he is not privy to the entertainment world, you know what I mean, and like things that you need, like the resources and like the how the journey goes in the entertainment world, for him it was like, get your education, you know what I mean. And he would be like, you should go to grad school, and I remember being like, I can't go to grad school, I'm an actress. Like if I go to grad school, I won't have time to audition, I'm supposed to be out here auditioning. And then ended up teaching K through 8th grade, neighborhood house charter school in Dorchester in Boston. And at first I loved it, and much like a lot of jobs, sometimes red tape and stuff like that gets involved, and then it became a chore. And then also I realized, like, I'm teaching all these kids like my joy and my love and my passion, and some of them get it and a lot of them don't, because it's middle school and elementary school, and you're figuring yourself out in those times. And you're also, you're in front of your peers, you don't want to do things, you feel weird and stuff. And so I was like, I'm going to start researching some of my favorite actors and actresses. And lo and behold, to my dismay, many of them had gone to grad school for theater, like Viola Davis, Angela Bassett, like all these people have gone to Yale, people have gone to USC. And it really opened my eyes of like, oh wow, like higher education is another avenue that I can go through to like get to where I want to be. So if it wasn't for him really like drilling, like, you're too, your star has grown bigger than Boston, you need to move to the next platform, like this, you've done all you can here, and now you need a bigger pool. And he really pushed, even though that's not his world. And he was a biggest supporter, came to all my like grad school performances and things of that nature. And so like that, doing that made me, allowed me to take that next step. And if it wasn't for that, then I would not be like where I am right now.
That's dope. I love hearing, our stories, our journeys. Yeah, how community it's funny how sometimes, we have so many similarities because I also taught, I was a teaching artist for many years in New York City, worked for like all the different teaching artist organizations. But before I got to that, I definitely kind of had a roundabout experience where after high school, I went on to college. I left the islands. I grew up in the Virgin Islands, so I grew up outside of the country. So I really think that established and gave me a different type of, aesthetic and coming to, my art and what you can make possible through your art. Just living in the Caribbean is a different view of that. But I think for me, when I came here, I realized I had a young son when I came to New York City. When I say came here, meaning that I had gone to school, I did my undergraduate, I had my son very young, and I had to figure out like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to balance, being an artist, but also paying my bills? How am I going to be able to do this? And I found a program. It was really crazy. Right in the A train, right in the A train, I saw like this poster for a grad school program because I did my undergrad in television production. Well, first started off in theater, and I was like, wait a minute, I got to figure out how to make money. I want to do TV production as well. So I went and pivoted, finished that. And I was, trying to figure out my life. Like, what am I going to do? I want to go to grad school, but I'm not necessarily know if I want to do it for art. So I ended up going to grad school for business. So my degree is actually MBA in media management, because I really wanted to know how do I take all of this talent and that part that I've been immersed in, but know the business aspect of it. I want to know the contracts. I want to know how to negotiate. I want to know how to, how does it work? How do I get funding? All of those things. And in New York City, was working as a teaching artist and realized, I don't really want to be the middleman. Let me just cut out the companies. How about I create my own business and become a vendor, and work directly for the schools and create an offering that the other companies weren't offering. And my community really supported me in that. Like, I had teachers that said, you know what, I believe in what you're doing. I want to support you. My first film production companies were in high schools throughout New York City. I worked with teens. I really appreciated, being able to take kind of the teaching aspect, but also like working in schools and still doing what I love doing, and kind of just making it my own opportunity. And, I just give thanks to be able to have that. So, that's, how my community, I say, really played a, specific role or significant role in shaping my artistic journey to this point.
Well, I've had a great amount of mentors through like most of my arts, including music, acting, and like producing. I play various instruments. I play the bagpipes. I play the trumpet. Um, I've had great mentors. My biggest one is probably my private lesson trumpet teacher. He has gotten me so far, and he's genuinely helped me out with life. And the local community, the local cable access, they've had programs in like media, so I've been participating in those, and honestly, just expanding my knowledge about film and TV in general. So yeah, art does a lot of things, and with the community help you, it does even more.
So I went to Berkeley College of Music. I had some friends in Japan that are artistic and musician, but when I went to Berkeley College of Music, where a lot of accomplished musicians and passionate musicians came, and then we explored friendships and music together, and then we became lifelong friends. And I've been on tour, and after graduating, I met so many great friends from musical theater to acting communities, and then I realized that more people that are accomplished are more supportive. So it means like people who are absolutely accomplished. For instance, I'm honored to be toured with Kate Pearson from the B-52s, and Kate and I became great friends. And then she's genuinely an amazing, amazing human being. So seeing professionals, rock and roll famers, and incredible human beings being so humble, and they reach out to you. Hey, Juri, how are you doing? That's such an amazing thing, to have the community and then acting world as well. People like pass my name, my son's name, my daughter's name. Hey, there's an audition opportunity, and hey, you should audition for this. I think overall, some people are absolutely like incredibly generous and then supportive.
That's so great to hear, because from my understanding, the arts, it's really about your community. You couldn't get anywhere without an audience. You couldn't get anywhere with someone to support you or believes in you, because it's hard putting yourself out there. So it's really great to hear that there is so much support. So I was wondering, do any of you have like that specific project or performance early in your career that kind of made you proud or made you think, this is exactly what I'm doing. I'm in the right place at the right time to be an artist?
I got a couple, but I think if I talk about a specific project, I'll be really quick, but two things. When I was in high school, I got pulled to do it was called like Positive Vibes and Solutions in Project. And in the islands, it was a touring theater troupe. And we would go to different high schools. They would train us in all of the basics of theater. And then we would go do these kind of open-ended scenarios in schools that dealt with peer prevention issues. So we would be able to go to our peers. I got pulled out of school, which I absolutely loved. I felt like a star. I was like, oh, I don't have to go to school today because I have a performance on the other side of the island. It was just, really, fun during that time. But you were also doing something meaningful. You were also, engaged in conversations with your peers about issues, either gun violence, teen pregnancy, drugs, like different things that were really happening in our community. And for me, that was just like like this is where these two very important things in my life intersect, and I don't want to do anything else that doesn't involve me understanding the purpose behind the passion. Like I love performing, I love arts, I love entertainment, but what's the purpose? So that was really a really great, I think a pivot or a moment for me to understand the genesis of those two that I've carried for so long. And then secondly, real quick, one of my first and earliest jobs was I was the general manager for the oldest African-American theater in upstate New York. It's a Ujima Theater Company. Lorna Hill, she was amazing, amazing, talented actress, writer, producer. She created this film company, a theater company that's still in existence today. And she just took me under her wing. I got a chance to really work alongside her. And her giving me the opportunity as a young person to run the theater from, everything from cleaning the toilets to making sure concessions are put up. It just gave me the opportunity to know all of the things that happen. Nobody's role is bigger than another when you're putting on a presentation or putting on art. She would do presentations with other theaters and bring me into understanding the meetings that would happen. Also, the business side as well as an artist. And I think that's another thing that really concretized, if that's a word, but made it concrete in my mind, all of the different working angles of this thing called art. So those are my two key moments.
So the first like my thesis for grad school was Fires in the Mirror by Anna Deavere Smith, which is about the Crown Heights riots of the 90s, which I had no idea about, being from Boston. In the 90s, I was like running the Boston streets in undergrad and stuff like that. So I wasn't aware of them. But living in Brooklyn, and then being right here, and then you have the Hasidic Jews right next door and the Black community, and being here and seeing some of the things that I've seen, I'm like, oh, okay, I have a much better understanding. And so doing that play, which for those of you who aren't familiar with it, it's basically a series of interviews where Anna Deavere Smith interviewed many people that were involved with the riots, including Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson, people from the Hasidic community, to get their perspectives, because there was this very rigid line between the Black community and the Hasidic Jews who lived right next to each other, and so doing that piece, and I got to play some of the, in my opinion, really strong characters in that piece. So I got to play Al Sharpton. I played Gavin Cato's dad, who was for those of you unfamiliar, the young child that was murdered that set off the riots. He was 7 years old, and at the time, my son was 7. My oldest was 7. So playing that role really meant a lot to me. It was an intersection of all the things that I really am passionate about like, activism, um, bridging gaps in various communities, especially communities of color, or communities that are not as uplifted, that really should be working together. And then it was also a point, playing Gavin's father, for instance, and doing the monologue where he talks about the day that it happened and watching his son get murdered and what that meant for him. But then also this man going through such trauma, but then giving a handout, reaching a handout as a mode of peace and in a white flag to the young Hasidic Jews family that was murdered in retaliation for that young Black child. And really saying, I don't want war. I don't want, I really want there to be peace, and really bringing that together, but culminating that monologue and really being able to bring my experiences and my full self to it, but then also creating this moment was really powerful. It was a really powerful moment. I have like a photograph from it where I'm like, just, you can see the passion and the emotion like pouring out of me, and my 2 castmates are like tearing up the set, because through the end it turns into a riot. We kind of emulate the riot that happened, and it was such a powerful piece where it showed me theater is supposed to be a rallying cry. Theater is supposed to make the audience uncomfortable. It's supposed to make you think. It's supposed to show a mirror up to the world of what is actually happening. And for me, that was such a strong moment to do that piece, because it did all of those things, and you couldn't turn away. You had to watch what was happening, and you had to sit with that yourself. You know what I mean? And what that meant for you, and how you would react in that time. And so that was a really, really powerful piece. And then I had I feel like I had another one that also was like, this was another moment of me like, yeah, I'm doing the thing that I'm supposed to be doing, but I can't even remember what it was. But I will say, and in The Nosebleed, which is a Japanese play, Ai Ogawa is the playwright, and it's really about their relationship with their father, who is traditional Japanese. And there's a ritual that happens in the play. I'm not going to tell you what it is, because y'all should definitely check it out. But there's a ritual in the play, and I think that ritual, them taking that piece of their culture and that ritual, and then seeing the first stage reading of Dominique Morisseau's Skeleton Crew, made me realize I want to take pieces of my culture, both Black and Indigenous, and I want to share those pieces with the world.
Yeah, my really, like, I knew I wanted to do this moment. Uh, I say it was the first episode of Nest and Clubhouse that I was on. Uh, woke up from a nap, and like it was like, oof, this kid. Um, but I did amazing. I loved how it felt on set. I loved the way how things were structured, and it was like such a great experience. Everybody was so nice, and that's what got me hooked onto sports casting and reporting and doing all that stuff in front of the camera. It's amazing experience. And when I entered the building and started reading out the script, how it was with all this flexibility of a TV show, it was so good. Like, I would never change a thing.
3rd year.
Yes, this is my 3rd year on the show, and like every year, something new, and it's always something great.
Yes. We had a shoot yesterday too at the Fenway Park. It was great
Yes.
with Lenny and all.
Yeah, 2004 World Series champion and former Red Sox pitcher Lenny DiNardo. Now he's a Nesson analyst. I worked with him yesterday and an episode prior, and he is such a great guy to be around, and he's so nice, and it's always an honor working with him. And that's the thing with all these jobs you get, or like all the experiences you have, you make these connections and you build up off of that, and it gives you so much more access throughout life.
And me and my son got to work with Adam McKay, Oscar-winning writer director for Don't Look Up, which is available on Netflix. I got my Japanese reporter role first, and then my son auditioned for a role with Mark Rylance, Sir Rylance, and then we got to work on the same Netflix movie together, and that was really, really special in the pandemic, right?
Yeah,
Mhm.
we were sequestered for 8 days.
Yes. So,
Yeah.
and then we got to work with A-list stars. He got to work with Zendaya's brother, Challengers. Recently, that came out in the theater. That was shot like 2 years ago when he was shorter than me. Now he's much taller than me, and it just like um star treatment, and then being on the set, and then being respected, and everyone's working really hard for just maybe 2 minutes of the screen that you see on the movie for like 12 hours a day. But there are PAs, there's so many extras, so many different people that are making the film happen.
Yeah, it's that surreal feeling of, oh my gosh, it's actually happened. We worked extremely hard and put our all into it. And now there's something live that like we made, and it's just really kind of beautiful. So I kind of wanted to take a pivot since we're halfway through this conversation and kind of talk about the other idea of diversity in arts, because I know there's kind of been this conversation going along that when you look at, when you talk about the biggest stars or the biggest people, the highest paid people, it's often people who look the same or maybe from the same background. And there's a lot of talk like things are getting better now about access, and people who may not have as many resources, people who are from like marginalized communities don't get as big of a piece of the pie in the industry. So when y'all were like younger artists, I know y'all found a lot of success now, were there really any barriers or obstacles you faced to kind of gain the training or experience you needed to succeed? And how did you overcome that?
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Right. It's like part of the game, right? It's
Right.
like,
Yeah, right. It's like rites of passage for people of color, I feel like.
Mhm.
Not that it should be. Not that it should be. Um, I know for me, so even in higher education, right? I feel like I was a little naive, right? Like I entered higher education. I was like, I'm going to grad school. Like this is gonna be great. Like I'm gonna, because in undergrad, I was like, I mean, there wasn't really a lot of plays there were definitely no plays that I can remember that were like by Black playwrights that were done by the university, like the theater department. Now there was a woman, Akiba Baka, who had her own theater company that would do stuff outside of it. We went to school together. But I thought, okay, I'm in higher ed now. Like this is higher education now. Like they'll definitely have stuff for me. And then like taking
we
like
doing that again? We doing the
yeah,
same
right. They don't have stuff for me. Like what? and then taking like Western theater and learning about the origins of theater and being told like theater originated by the Greeks. Like, huh? Like as if there wasn't like Asian clown theater thousands of years prior, as if there wasn't mask, mask also in Asian culture, and mask theater in Egypt thousands of years, you know what I mean? I'm like, oh, okay. And then even a lot of the plays that were done by playwrights and stuff were not really something that I, fit into. So honestly, for me, I started doing a lot of my own content. And even now, I'm like, okay, you don't want to cast me in this role that I want to play a freaking action hero. And you know what? Maybe I'm not the right body type in Hollywood or whatever, or the look, or young enough, to play the action hero, but I'm gonna write it myself. And I'll write the role for myself, and I'm gonna go play this action hero. And maybe you might not like it, but maybe I throw it up on YouTube, and hey, you never know, because other people might relate to being a middle-aged woman who wants to be a superhero.
Like, come on, that's right.
Right? Like, I
Mhm.
want to kick ass and take names.
That's right. That's what you gotta do. That's what you gotta do. Yo, I don't want to cut you off if you're not done, because it's like, it's one of those things you think about, like, oh, what challenges, obstacles, at a point, you get to a point where you're like, I don't see them anymore. It's just that's just the way it is. It's understanding that, if the door is built a particular way and it doesn't want to open, then how do you create your own door? And I think it's a matter of there are lessons in futility if you keep knocking at the same door and you're not getting in, or if you get in, you just get a little bit, or you're not really, or you're willing to do things you're not wanting to do in order to get access for a little bit, when there's an abundance of what not only you can bring to the table, but what you can create. It does require stamina. It does require, perseverance, and a faith in yourself, a faith in the creator that things are going to work out. But like Kylie, like, it's a matter of like, oh, I need to create this. Okay, I can write it too. I will write it and we'll produce it. We'll bring people in. And I think that you're seeing so much more of that now. I think that if anything, the access of technology, or technology has not only brought an access of ability, or I say access of being able to get in the doors, and access of creating the door yourself. So those barriers of, those barriers are just lowered. Your ability to, get your friends and get a, DSLR camera and throw something together,
Or iPhone, shoot, we using iPhones too.
Right. Or iPhone, exactly. iPhones, get your people together and create your own content. That is something that I think when I first started, it wasn't, as commonplace as it is now. But I think as an artist, especially as an artist of color, I think you put yourself at the disadvantage if you think everything is going to be created for you. And I just recently saw a really great quote about just kind of like multi-talented people. Like, sometimes those who think linearly, don't necessarily understand when you have a multi-talented person who can think in direction, who can think as a writer, who can think as a performer. Those are the best people to have in your corner, because they can kind of see at what different points there's abilities to create content and create things. So yeah, whatever obstacle, I turned it into a launch pad. You turn it into a launch pad. Like, oh, okay, let's break this down and turn it into something I can, push me further. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think I was born in around the right time where DEI was more appreciated and like more seen. Just growing up in this day and age, so I haven't experienced much of it besides like say in school. Really, mental health is like obviously a large part of this industry. Like you have to keep it up to like memorize things and just keep going. um, sometimes it can wear down on you through like the racial bullying and such, but that's why you stay strong. And honestly, I just still kept going, and that's how I'm still in the industry and still working hard.
Well, I'm Asian female producer and actress, and I belong in Women in Film Video New England, where I did Boston 48-hour film project, and then they gave me the grand prize, and they definitely empowered me, educated me a lot how to advocate myself when I get discredited, for instance, because they think they can. So, and as a journalist, I really work with um, great people who don't see me as an Asian woman who never spoke English growing up, but they see me as somebody who is really great with journalism and photography and then report building. And I'm very grateful, but I definitely experienced of discrimination, especially during the pandemic too, but maybe just more so, I would say, um, like my son said, the mental health wise, however, millions of people would say, hey, you're beautiful, or you are ugly, or chin chin, ding dong, whatever I was called, that I don't really, um, it's it's kind of interesting that you don't control what people say, but you control what you say to yourself. So you become more abusive to yourself than anything else. So I think the challenge is people have different opinions and they are entitled to think what they think about me or my son, but it's up to you to take it personally or not take it and dramatize it or forget about it. So I feel that it's more of you choosing and investing the time with people that are not really people that kind of based on your ability, that hey Juri, you are Asian woman, you cannot do it, and then I don't want to work with those people. So you filter people that see you as a human being in the potential, and that is definitely your choice. And then I think it's definitely changing, but we do have to advocate for ourselves.
A lot of it is also about your self-belief and overcoming those barriers and just kind of knowing that you can overcome all that because there is space and that there's not this fight over a piece of the pie and stuff there. So I kind of want to move on now to a kind of deeper question that I think you all can kind of answer, but it's kind of about how do you define your artistic identity, and does your work kind of define you, or do you define your work?
How do you define your artistic identity? I think there's so many like labels we can wear, even, hey, I'm a multi-hyphenate, I can write, I can, act, I direct. My next project is directing Sweat by Lynn Nottage at the Long Beach Playhouse. And thinking about, even when I think about those labels, it's still, what's the content you're putting out in the world? What do you want people to walk away with? What do you want them to leave? What message are you, being able to have people connect with that is simultaneously, going to make them think of you? And when I think of the work, either what I'm creating or what I'm aligning myself with, it's definitely work that is, going to heal the human spirit, bring people together. I think that as an artist, you got to be clear on why you do what you do.
I can echo that about advocacy. So I have a book. It's called A Gift from Adversity, and then it's on Amazon. And then it's about my childhood challenges that I faced in Japan. But as Asian female, again, who went through a lot, we are considered to not be, well, we're considered to be shy and then not talk much, and then really like shut our mind and then wear social mask and hide our emotion. That's my background. So I'm way opposite of it. And then now I became a journalist, that I became a voice for so many people. I've written over 600 articles, and then I became a filmmaker and a storyteller, that I became somebody else's voice, and I'm highly aware of what I pick and what I write, what I choose, and who I interview. So I feel like the platform that I'm given for either social media or my newspaper work, podcast, or book, that I'm very intentional for change in DEI and in diversity inclusion. But not only that, gender gap issues, a lot of social issues, abuse, domestic violence, and then heavy hitter issues that I am not afraid to shed a light as a journalist and as a podcaster. But I'm very, very much aware of where I came from, where I was not given a voice. So it's very important for me to take advantage of being America, and then being like super grateful that some of the countries that women, as women, like we just don't have a voice, period. So I'm very grateful for being in America right now.
Yeah, those are very beautiful responses, kind of talking about your own kind of voice and just how lucky, everyone is kind of, there's this privilege, even feels to be able to be in the arts.
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity, and then I really appreciate it. So it's a lot of work, but at the same time, it's very rewarding to be the person who's not afraid to advocate for others. And then I feel really grateful that my son is actually nominated for DEI category, celebrating AAPI month, interviewing Masataka Yoshida, a Japanese player in Japanese last year. And I'm very grateful for Emmy to even have the category of DEI and celebrating diversity. But it's very interesting that I think we are in works still. It's definitely better than 20 years ago, but we do have a lot of work ahead, and any advocacy work, any storytelling, any inclusion type of work can change people's minds. Hey, that woman can do it, that kid can do it, and it exemplify and really amplify the voices we have as a human being. And I think it's important and to know that you are investing your time to multi generations to come.
I can jump in to talk about my how I see my art. And I think that I own my art. My art doesn't like reflect me. It changes. I have a couple of taglines that I definitely go by. So I'm like hashtag comedy goddess, because you know how they have like kings and queens of comedy and whatnot. I figured, well, shoot, they got kings and queens and I'm a goddess because I write comedy, I do comedy, I do stand-up, sketch, improv. And I also I have a motto that a spoonful of laughter helps the message go down. So that I truly believe, you know, because laughter helps us to loosen up. It helps us to, you know, let go of some of our inhibitions. It helps us to be vulnerable, you know, because if you can get someone laughing, then they've let go, you know, they've trusted a little bit. Their walls aren't up. And that's when you can sneak into the message. You know, so for me, I really use comedy as a tool to reach more people and to open people up so that they understand. And I'm also not about like drilling a message home. I don't want to drill a message into people. I want to have it in there, and they will get it, and they will do with it what they will. I also go by like educated ratchet because my stuff is gritty. It's not clean. It's gritty, it's dirty, it's messy, you know what I mean? It's for the misfits, it's for the others. And a lot of those archetypes, you know, are stereotyped, and they're not considered to be attractive for mainstream media. You know what I mean? They're not considered to be the lead, you know, role, the beautiful man, or the, you know what I mean? Like I have a pilot that I've been working on for like over 7 years called Fucked Up and Fabulous. And it's for middle-aged women. It's my like Black, you know, Sex in the City. It's for middle-aged women. You know what I mean? And they're talking about sex, drugs, career, you know what I mean? Like, because also like there's the ageism in this industry, you know, and especially for women, like it's so tiered. This industry is so tiered on who gets access, who gets resources, who gets a spotlight, you know what I mean? So I really try to make sure in all of my work that I'm advocating in it, that I have dark-skinned Black people at the forefront, that I'm incorporating Asian, Latino, gay, queer, you know what I mean? That I really try. And I can't say that I do it in every single project, because every single project is not necessarily meant for that. You know, like Fucked Up and Fabulous is specifically for seasoned Black women. You know what I mean? Like that is me holding up seasoned Black women. You know what I mean? But I have other projects where I'm holding up Black Indigenous people, because that's another minority within a minority that does not get talked about, you know, like, and I know that I don't look like the stereotypical Native American of what Hollywood would have you believe a Native American would look like. So that's, you know, I have a project where I'm holding up Black Indigenous people. I have projects where I'm holding up, you know, comedians from all different BIPOC areas and whatnot. So I really try to, you know, I can't hit everything all the time, but I really try to be very intentional about the work that I do and the messages that are within it. And I can't say that I'm always perfect, because I'm not. I'm a human and I make mistakes.
And can I, that's so good, Kylie. I just love listening to you. And it's so important, because what I heard you say, just the aspect of hold into those images, hold into like the realness of us, right? And not allowing Hollywood, not allowing those to dictate, because that's a hard pill to swallow. And once you swallow it, I see like what happens a lot of times is that we can go into the industry wanting to transform it, and then we being transformed by the industry. And we end up regurgitating the same things that we were trying to fight against. And I think it's so important to like hold the line, you know what I'm saying? Really hold true to, you know, the images, hold true to the stories that you want to put out there, because there's so many people that you're opening the door for. There's so many people that are going to be inspired by seeing you as that middle-aged, you know, action hero. Be like, yo, shoot, she can do it. I'm about to be over here writing my story, you know, the same way. And that's what we need to inspire each other, and not just have this machine kind of, pull out or regurgitate the things that they think that we're supposed to, look like, or we're supposed to sound like. And it's hard. And a lot of that, like, I love what they talked about, Juri and Jayden, the mental health thing. It is hard. You have to have a strong mental health practice because you're going to, it's a harder journey. It's a harder journey when you're not writing for the money versus like, no, this is what I want to put out into the world. Yeah. So I just want to say thank you for saying that. You excited me over here. I'm like, yes. Okay. Cause George Clooney and Brad Pitt, they just have
right. Like
movie.
They're like 60 plus. You know what I mean? They're 60 plus.
Yeah, Kyle, you were just serving it. That was just so thoughtful. Just hitting me on the head there. So great to hear that and stuff from you there. And I wanted to go speed round for you all and ask about resources for people who are BIPOC, who are from marginalized and underrepresented group. Are there any resources or support systems that you found really helpful for breaking into the industry that other people can access right now?
I mean, honestly, like Facebook is a huge resource. There's so many groups on Facebook specifically for BIPOC people. You know what I mean? I don't want to throw all of them out because some of them are like, you need to be invited, to make sure, because sometimes we got to vet. Sometimes we do got to gatekeep just to make sure that it stays for us. We don't want other people infiltrating into them, But there are definitely plenty of Facebook groups. Like everyone on this call is a resource. Like I'm sure if you, found us on social media and you ain't trying to like just automatically get booked in something, you know what I mean? But you like, hey, you have a question and you want some feedback. I definitely have people DM me. And honestly, I feel like Issa Rae said it best. Work across the board. Yep, exactly. Maisha's like, yep. Like if you reach out across the board, all those people are rising up with you. Like when I look back at people that I acted with in Boston many years ago, like they're all have risen. People here in New York, like, one of my friends she works for the Huntington now. She's doing the casting. It's like work across the board and be good to people.
Be good. Thank you. Be good.
Like be good. Right? Because don't nobody want to work with a jerk, and you're never going to get hired again. And it's a small industry, no matter where you're at. It's small. Things get around. Be the best advice I could give. Be a good person.
Like I'm a theater babe. I went to the theaters. I actually just went and saw a friend of mine in Jelly's Last Jam out here in Pasadena Playhouse, and just being able to see people working. Not only is it like your firsthand kind of educational experience if you can go to the theater, but then you can be able to meet people afterwards. If you want to go and meet people, at the end of the show, introduce yourself. I'm thinking about young people who are coming up. A lot of those theaters have theater programs you can get yourself into, aligned with the artistic community. And I would say also, if you're a young person, if you're interested in the arts or you're connected with the arts, stay connected with your theater teacher or your art teacher, because those mentors, they're not only can they give you, tips and help you, they in themselves have their own networks. They themselves have their own communities that can, give you opportunities, or they may, kind of widen your ability or widen your reach, widen your knowledge in some aspects. So I think that's really, that's worth saying. Just, stay in contact with those folks as well. Yeah. And just make it. Like right now, just make it. I think that don't allow perfection to disable you, or just do what you do and do as much as you can and do it with your friends and throw it on your little, like my daughter who's 9 could edit better than me. Like, and I'm pretty good at editing, but she was like, oh, look, I just made this. She just today on one thing made a whole slideshow with music timed and everything. I said, well, when did you learn how to do this? Oh, I'm just doing it. So you can just make it and put it out there.
The world is the oyster, especially with the internet. There's so much that you can do. So kind of going back to both of you, this idea of like your own identity, how did you kind of find, like when you're actually going out there not able to make opportunities for yourself where you have to pay the bills, how do you find the right opportunities and people that kind of align with your identity and background?
I mean, for me, a lot of mine were like connections from grad school or just, going out and auditioning, because when you go, like, I would say there's kind of twofold of way of auditioning, right? Like there's, and it's a very delicate balance too. So when you do it, like, keep that in mind, right? There's going into the auditioning room and there's being like, okay, I'm here to audition and let me like focus on myself and like get ready and get into my character and all that stuff too. And that's really great. And there's no right or wrong. And then there's also like going into the auditioning room and recognizing that other people are in there as well. You know what I mean? And maybe even introducing yourself, or you know what I mean? And it doesn't mean that you have to take away from, like, you can still have your time to set and make sure you're respecting their time to set into character. But you want to also, like, when you're in the auditioning room and stuff, you're auditioning for everyone. You're networking with everyone. The person who is checking you in will someday be on the other side of that table, in the room. You know what I mean? The people that are sitting in the room with you will be in a production where they need to cast a role, and maybe you're perfect for that role because maybe someone got sick, got COVID, because COVID, you know what I mean? Like, there are so many different ways to get called into things. Like, you could audition for something, you don't get it, and then that person email you 6 months down the road because there's another project and they remembered you and they were like, oh, could you audition for so never count yourself out just because you didn't get something, because just being in the room, you're showing these people your talent, and you never know what it could lead to in the future.
Yeah. I definitely agree with that. I mean, and there's so many times I ask my proctor, how were they in the audition room? If I'm auditioning folks and I have them come in, I want to know how they were out in the waiting room with other people. I want to know, because as a director or a producer on the other side, I want to, kind of get all aspects and elements of how you were engaging, not just when you're ready to perform. So that's a really good point. I also think that, how do you get those opportunities, right? Oh, man, I think your path is so individual. Like, not everybody's story is going to be different. I think that, the more that you understand and accept that and surrender to that, then you'll, I think, be more observant of the ways that your opportunities are coming to you. Because a lot of times the things that are for you, if you think it should look like something else, you're not looking at, the pearl that's being given and placed in your hand because you think it's supposed to be a gold nugget, but like, oh, but you have a pearl that's being given to you. So really being able, and I'm using that analogy, but really thinking about like, oh, for me, at one point I was like, I don't want to take this teaching artist job. I don't want to teach. But you know what? The work that I did as a teaching artist was such a pearl. I mean, it shaped me in so many. I performed at least 3 times a week in audience, in those auditoriums. Kids are rough. Like, they'll let you know whether or not you hitting or you're not. Like, for comedy and everything. So being able to perform 3 times a week, before getting to, my off-Broadway, or before getting to the stages that I really wanted to perform on, I had to use that pearl, so to speak, and use that opportunity. And it helped me along the way. And even those relationships and those people I worked with, they're doing great things now, and you can still be able to call on them. So yeah, I just think that, just being willing to be observant of what's being placed before you, even though it's not what you think it's supposed to look like.
Yeah. I just want to add to that real quick, because that's a really great point too, is also like knowing that each opportunity really is like a step to the next. You know what I mean? If you think of your journey as a staircase, each one leads to the next. And if you downplay an opportunity, you never know what's going to come from it. You know what I mean? Like when we first did the first production of The Nosebleed, we did it at Japan Society, which isn't even a real theater. You know what I mean? But it got rave reviews. And because of those like rave reviews, Lincoln Center wanted us. So then we did Lincoln Center, and then we ended up in like Variety and this like, and that was like, what? Like, wow, oh my goodness. All based, but also it was about being prepared and doing the work, right?
Yeah.
Not doing the work trying to be seen, not doing the work of like, let me get an award, let me do this so I can get an award. Because right, that's, if that is your goal, you are not gonna make it. You know what I mean? You have to do the work for the sake of doing the work. Like I had a friend who shortly after I did Lincoln Center hit me up because that's how we got nominated for the Lucille Lortel. And they hit me up and they were like, hey, I want to do Lincoln Center like you and this, that, and the third. And I was like, skirt, hold on. Let me back up a little bit because that's not where we started. You know what I mean? Like that might have been where everybody else took notice, but that's not where we started. We started at Japan Society, which is like 100-seat, like auditorium.
Yeah.
Like, so you never know what could lead to the next thing. You know what I mean? So you really have to treat each opportunity, again, being a great person, being prepared and doing the work.
Yeah. Being responsible, reliable, showing up on time, knowing what you know, knowing what you're supposed to be doing. And even if you don't know, having the humility to say, you know what, I don't have it. Let's, having humility, all of those things. It's more, it's, this process in this industry, and I'm sure with any other area as well, but it's such a character defining process, like in all aspects, humility, patience, responsibility, fiscal management. Like you have to be, because, there's a lot of ambiguity. How can you be strong through the ambiguity? How can you hold? So there's a lot of character defining moments in this work, and just being able to hold to that. And then you begin to see, like you said, your friend, you're like, oh, wait a minute, hold on. Like, back up for just a minute. You begin to see, and I think you begin to see the folks who you want to be around and the folks that you might have to create boundaries with. And I think that's also important for your work too, the integrity of your work. Who's going to fuel you, and who do you, create so much so for me, a boundary with, because they might have a different, and it's okay, it's cool, it's cool, whatever. They just might have a different way to their journey than yours.
Yeah, there's some really great life lessons in there, even like for someone who's a lot younger. Like those are really just the principles that you want to be a good person, and when it's the arts, you're really making yourself vulnerable and putting yourself out there. Though, and I feel like what the hardest thing is like rejection, or that you're going to get in, and bring your A game, and someone's not going to think you're good, or it wasn't enough and stuff, and dealing with that over and over again. But you put the spin out, that's really positive, that every opportunity, like you could get noticed, you're going to meet the right people, you're going to keep persisting. And if you have that integrity and stuff over time, especially if you start young, you're going to get to where you want to be. But you do start somewhere, though. That was a really great story.
And can I just and when we say start, like sometimes we think of our trajectory going like this, but sometimes it might go like this, and you might turn back around, you have the loop-de-loop and then go back up. So like just understanding that, it's all part of it. And, like the end, I don't even know what the end goal is, it's just like the process is actually, the destination, more to speak, that's part of it. So you might start and have to restart. You might have to, stop for a minute, take care of family, or come back. But just as long as you know that you can use it all towards what it is that you want to put out into the world.
Yeah, I met Jocelyn Bio years ago when she was doing African Mean Girls play as part of the mentorship project at Cherry Lane Theater. And I remember going up to her like, oh my goodness, because, she had done Broadway and this, that, and the third, Brandon Jenkins play. And, and she was like, girl, yeah, I was on Broadway, but I'm struggling to pay my rent.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's so, it like, it is like the journey, it's not straight up. There's loops and, it's a roller coaster ride. And now, now look at her today. Her play, Zsa Zsa's African Hair Braiding, just won an MTC award. Like she's all over everything and shining bright like the star she is, you know what I mean? But it's just a good note to remember, like, yeah, like there's going to be ups and downs, and there's going to be highs and lows, just like anything else. But as long as you stay fast to the journey, you know what I mean? Eventually something's going to happen. You put in your 16,000 hours and like,
Right.
Yeah, there's so much kind of possibility. I'm glad you're keeping it so positive and stuff. There is like barriers and kind of challenges, but if the right attitude and support, you know, you can make it if you kind of just keep going. So I kind of want to bring this into a greater kind of conversation of what positive changes or progress have you kind of witnessed in your industries in terms of representation and opportunities for diverse performers. You can call them out directly.
well, I mean, I would definitely say like although a lot of them have been canceled recently, but you know, all the like, there's a lot more shows of color on TV. There's a lot more actors that look like all of us here on the screen where there weren't before. You know what I mean? I think the first like Asian show was like fresh off the boat, right? And think about how long ago that was. And like now there's all these other ones and like Blackish and like, you know, and but just like the diversity that's out there. And also I think all the other platforms, like all these other streaming platforms have really made it much easier too for us BIPOC people to have so much more diversity out there in the world and being able to, you know, make it yourself, put it up on YouTube. So I think all of those are huge strides in like people of color getting to own our own stories, you know, and voice our own stories. I think those are some definitely like hard, concrete ones.
Yeah. Yeah, I love just the I guess I don't want to say influx, but just I think there's been an increased visibility of Black playwrights for me, just like being able to see more stories, you know, written on stage, and being able to see those folks who are writers just you know, translate those skills into digital spaces too. So I think there's more of that, whereas folks kind of saw you as maybe a one-hatted pony or one-trick pony, so to speak, that there's more of acceptance of, no, this person can also write for stage and screen, or this person can also do multiple things. I think that there's more of that, because if you look at, I love, you know, my favorite pastime, I guess not pastime, I love reading people's bios. I love finding out like, not know, you know, where they come from or what else they do, because everybody does something else, you know, and what else, you know, brought them to where whatever they're doing at this point. And I think that that's something that, you know, is helpful when you meet people too, like just knowing like, okay, this person, I'm sure I'm meeting in this context, but they got a whole lot of other things I'm going to get to know about them. And I think that, you know, now, especially after the strikes, especially I'm here in LA, everything's changing, you know, the whole industry is changing. And the more that you are able to be not just the more that you're able to be a content creator, like really understand the full process of things, you know, you're able to kind of work in a way that you can work for different people's individual kind of siloed projects. I think we're moving away from like the major kind of studio model to individual production company models, and those people having more leverage, and you know, the entertainment kind of being varied in that aspect. So I think we've made strides in that way. Still, like Juri said, that we still have a lot to go. We have you know, a lot more to conquer, but you know, we are making progress.
Baby steps. I mean, I do feel like oftentimes it is one step forward and three steps back.
Yeah.
But we're definitely at a much better place than we were even 10 years ago. So
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I've been very excited as well. Like just seeing like when you go on Netflix or you look at a bunch of places, there was so much kind of talk about diversity to where certain sect maybe is even like, why is there so much diversity? Why is it popping? Like and stuff like it never existed before. And there was like kind of just been more and more representation of different perspectives as well as global perspective, which is really good. But I do get sometimes it's like, oh, now people want to go back to like tradition or like the Y2K or 80s, which wasn't known. And it's just kind of a forever battle, but you just gotta keep making art. And I kind of relate to you all and the idea of like the multi-hyphenate, because as a young person, sometimes I get kind of the struggle of like, I'm not established yet in like a full-on career where I'm like making like the whole like life making money yet. So I'm like, who am I? Because I know I can like produce TV. Sometimes I love to perform, be like do roles in my friends' films. I love, being able to do this podcast, be able to like produce, outreach, edit, and like come up with my own questions. And that I like to write, and there's just so much. And you're told sometimes like people are like, you gotta stick in one box, but just the positivity of like being able to adapt to what people need as well as be as your own creator and kind of your own business is just like a big benefit of today, because there's less of the traditional route, but you can kind of make your own route. And people who I think are from like more marginalized or diverse identities have the advantage in taking that step, because there wasn't really a easy path necessarily at the beginning of what to do. So you have to figure it out for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And can I just really quickly, I know we're running in time, but really quick, the aspect of business is so important to me too. So, go get your business papers. You are an entity as an artist. Make sure you know how to work your 1099. Make sure you have, it's nothing for different states is different, but filing an LLC or doing a doing business as, and being able to understand what the laws apply to you as an artist, because you're a business as well.
Going back into this artivism talk, do you consider your work a platform for activism or self-expression? And if so, how does that always manifest in your art?
Yes.
I feel like for me, it's a little bit of both. I mean, sometimes it's self-expression, and hence why I'm like, educated ratchet, because I'm not really a role model. Please don't think I'm a role model. like,
But you are. But you are too.
I don't want to be. I'm like, sometimes I don't want to be. Sometimes I just want to, make the stallion twerk online. But which honestly, also actually, in my opinion, is a form of radical activism. Like,
hey.
But yeah, I think it's such a fine line, and it's hard because it blurs, like this activism stuff is not like black and white. There's so many shades of gray, right? Because even us like having this conversation is as us all STEM presenting people on this Zoom call, like is radical to be having these conversations about like activism and how we flourish in a business that is not meant for us to flourish, or in a society that's always weighted down on us, you know what I mean? So I think that activism for me lies within everything that I do, because my mom went to protest, took us to protest when we were younger. My grandmother, actually being from Boston, my grandmother at one point went to class with Martin Luther King, because he went to Boston College, you know what I mean, and marched with him. And so I feel like it's like embedded, but also as being like, I consider myself a warrior, and as being like Black and Indigenous, like someone has to carry the torch forward, you know what I mean? Someone has to keep it going. And I feel like it's part of my duty to make sure that I'm keeping it going.
Yeah. That's so dope. It's so fun. I please, the Black and Indigenous stories, please. I want to see so much more of that, because my grandmother was Pamunkey Indian, and I like know but so much, and would love to know more of those stories and how the Black and Indigenous cultures engage, because that's a whole world that we don't know much about, but it was so significant, so prominent here in part of U.S. history. Don't nobody talk about it. It's a lot it's a lot of those stories that are so embedded in who we are, that please keep doing that, keep bringing those stories to the forefront. Yeah, I love what you said about like activism. It's a gray area. It's like, what are you passionate about? What do you want to talk about? And it can be dramatic, it could be through humor, it could be through whatever platform you have. So I think I just answered your question, like, yes, I am. Like, yeah, I don't have any other choice to be, I think. And just thinking, being able to be a person that's thinking, and a person that's feeling, and a person that's emoting and being affected by everything that's happening in our world. You can choose to turn it off, or you could choose to, like, hey, if I got something a platform, I'm gonna say something about it. Like, I'm gonna say, here it goes. Like, this is, and however you choose to say it is going to be that special individual, unique expression of activism, because it's coming from you, it's coming from your perspective, it's coming from what you know, it could be coming from your curiosity, your still questions of it, but I bet you will speak to somebody, and I bet you someone else will relate to it. So I think that, you know, when we think of activism, there's so many different ways, you know. We could be out in the streets protesting, or we could be, you know, behind the scenes writing a scene, you know, that's giving voice to character that hasn't been seen, who's been othered in different areas. So once I think we understand how activism can be kind of like this moving target, and it's not just one representation of it, then I think that so many more of us will be activists. I think, you know, there's some people just like, I just want to laugh, or I just want to, and I think that that's also a form of activism too. Like, I just want to, like, I'm not all about like anything that's too deep. I just want to like make money. Okay, that's, you know, I think that's maybe a form of activism in a way too. But I think that just know why you do what you do.
Yeah.
Just know why you do what you do. We got a lot of people out here that don't know why they do what they do. Know why you do what you do. If I could give any point of advice, that would be it. And everything else will take care of itself.
That's so beautiful. I love listening to you too. Just this positivity. I'm like, I'm gonna have to listen to this again when I need a boost and to feel better about my life, and just so many opportunities and stuff there. So I always ask this question to everyone at the end. Do you have any final words, maybe particularly to young people or people who are in need of this kind of mentorship through the podcast?
I mean, again, just you're a business, be a good person, network across the board, doesn't matter what you're doing. I mean, hey, people are popping off of TikTok and Instagram, you know what I mean? There are so many more platforms available than were when I was coming up. Going to a performing arts school for like middle school, elementary school is also a dope help. Or if you don't have that in your area, like Maisha said, your local, you know, groups, theater classes, like however you can work your instrument.
Yeah. All of that. All of that. And don't take yourself so seriously. You know, it's okay. You're going to be all right. You're going to be right where you need to be, and take it all as part of the journey.
You have delivered some of the best career advice and life advice on this. So I kind of got a 2-for-1 deal, as well as Juri and Jayden being so inspirational. Just thank you all so much to your all lovely people. Kylie and Maisha, just thank you so much for being here.